What are the symptoms of anxiety?
It feels like it comes on suddenly, and I can feel my body getting more and more tense. My stomach will often start to tighten. It can tighten or it can get butterflies. I feel my face getting red. I feel my face getting red right now. I have anxiety describing my anxiety.
What do we do about anxiety? And the first thing that we want to do is we want to get curious. The second thing is we've got to get relational. The third thing is to get help. It's a lot of nerdy science.
It's a lot of nerdy science.
And it's a lot of theology, looking at the scriptures. But I hope what we're getting is the picture that the science and the scriptures are not at odds with each other. How should we respond to anxiety or think about anxiety as Christians? There's some misperceptions that are here that Christians aren't supposed to experience anxiety. And I just want to clear that up. Anxiety is a system that Jesus wired into the nervous system. If we didn't have this system, we wouldn't survive. We would die. Fear not is the goal. The mechanism for achieving that is I am with you. Welcome, and thank you for being here. I'm Josh Spurlock. I'm a licensed professional counselor with a degree in biblical languages. I also developed a model of therapy called Neuroscience-Informed Christian Counseling and founded the faith-based therapy company, My Counselor Online. Every month, my team and I help thousands of people mature into their true self and experience true happiness. We have a 93% success rate and 4.8 stars on Trustpilot. It just works. And in this podcast, we share the secrets we've learned to true happiness, the abundant life that Jesus spoke of in John 10:10. So thanks for joining us. Let's learn something together. We are continuing our series on anxiety. And specifically, we're going to deep dive into what are the symptoms of anxiety? Like how do we know if we're experiencing anxiety? Is it the same as worry? Is it the same as fear? Is it different from those things? How do we know? So we're going to get super nerdy around the neuroscience and understanding what's happening in our body, what's happening in our brain. And then we're going to turn and look at a really important question about how should we respond to anxiety or think about anxiety as Christians. So as people who believe the Bible and believe that God has designed us and has purpose and cares about what's happening in our life and thus has something to say about anxiety, how should we think through these things? And then lastly, we're going to get into, okay, what do we do about anxiety? What should we do with anxiety? So stick around. We're going to learn some stuff. Let's dive in. So can you share for the class how you experience anxiety? Like how do you know that you're feeling anxious?
I know that I'm feeling anxious because suddenly I can feel my body, like it feels like it comes on suddenly, and I can feel my body getting more and more tense. My stomach will often start to tighten, or even it can tighten or it can get butterflies. I feel my face getting red. I feel my toes spreading. These are my weird, these are things that I feel my face getting red right now. I have anxiety describing my anxiety. Yeah, just symptoms in my body that I notice. And I also notice that I can't seem to think as clearly as I normally could.
Yeah, those are all super common symptoms of anxiety.
Especially the toe thing.
Especially the toe splaying thing.
Yeah.
That might just be you. I don't know. Let's see.
Put in the comments if your toes give away your anxiety.
I have to pay attention the next time I'm wearing sandals to see whether that's true of me or not. Hey, if you're new around here, this is my co-host Cassie, also my lovely wife. And so we're exploring anxiety today. And I want to talk about the autonomic nervous system, the autonomic nervous system.
Yeah.
if I can speak correctly.
Auto, like that's the key part.
Yeah, the key part, right? So why are we talking about autonomic nervous system? Because it is what produces all of the symptoms that we experience around anxiety, right? Anxiety is not a fluke, and it's not a defect in our system. That Jesus designed the anxiety response on purpose, and it serves a really important role in our life as a sort of alarm system alerting us to a potential threat, external or internal. And I say a potential threat or a perceived threat because the threat may or may not be real, but it is nonetheless triggering to the nervous system. So a way to think about this is like with a smoke alarm. Smoke alarm is intended to alert you if the house is on fire. However, that's not the only time the smoke alarm goes off, right? Like sometimes the smoke alarm goes off and, something's just bubbled over on the stove, or there's cookies that have been left too long in the oven, or something of that nature, right? The house isn't on fire, but there is smoke in the air.
Yeah.
And the smoke alarm isn't able to differentiate between something bubbled over on the stove a little bit, or the house is on fire. It just knows there's smoke in the air.
Right.
And this alarm system inside of us is super sensitive and sounds when there's smoke in the air. When there's something that our nervous system picks up on that it perceives as a threat or a potential threat. And so it sounds the alarm and we feel this kind of anxiety response. So, and that anxiety response is all controlled by the autonomic nervous system. So the autonomic nervous system has two branches. It's got the sympathetic and parasympathetic branches. Sympathetic is this activation, and kind of increases our heart rate. It increases blood pressure. It mobilizes sugars. It releases adrenaline. It releases cortisol. Like it mobilizes the system for action. Right? Take a look. Parasympathetic acts as like brakes. Kind of slows the heart rate down, slows breathing down.
Let's all be calm here.
Yeah. Helps us take a deep breath and relax. And so the sympathetic side presses the gas, the parasympathetic side presses the brake. And when we are under a condition of threat, the sympathetic system activates. And this is super important. One feature of this is super important in that when the parasympathetic system or the sympathetic system activates, it deactivates, it dials down this frontal cortex part of our brain.
Because it's putting all our resources towards survival.
Correct. That's not a defect of the
Yes.
system again. It is a feature that God designed in. This smart part of our brain is so incredibly helpful to us in logically thinking through things, but it's slow. It takes a lot of time and energy and resources for this front part of our brain to draw on all of our past experiences to interpret what's happening in the present moment. And if there's a rustle in the bushes,
Yes.
and it's a lion,
Yes.
and you're trying to analyze that rustle.
I think I've seen this lion before. What do
heard this
lions do
noise.
again? What should I do?
Could be a threat. Your dinner.
Here's a few possibilities.
Yeah, your toast. Your dinner. You don't survive. Right? Like you have to be able to respond reflexively and quickly and rapidly under certain threat conditions. Otherwise, you're dead. Dead meat. Right? And so the brain shutting down the slow thinking part and instead just functioning off of this part inside here that is very rapid and super fast. That's right on top of our brainstem, and it's able to coordinate action lightning fast. And it's survival, and it keeps us alive. And it's a brilliant design in the nervous system that Jesus wired into us. However, if the threat is not a lion,
Yes.
then
It's just a cute little
having the
bunny.
smart parts of our brain be turned off is actually not all that helpful.
Yeah, right. If we were trying to navigate like it's a lion, but
Yeah, when it's our spouse, you know, it can be problematic.
Yeah.
Or a coworker, or kids, or that sort of thing. Not so good. Not
right?
so good.
And you felt it when you're like, what is going on? Why am I showing up like this? This is just this person, you know?
Yeah. Our relational circuits are managed up here, right? And so our ability to kind of connect with folks is inhibited. It goes offline. And we go into a friend or foe kind of mode, or we go into kind of enemy mode, some folks call it. And we're in this place of we sense a threat and we are mobilized into fight or flight in responding to that threat. And if we perceive that threat, you know, as potentially coming from somebody in our environment, then, you know, they become the enemy. And we start to respond to them like they're the enemy. And there's this emotional, relational disconnect that takes place, right? And Stephen Porges, as a researcher and neuroscientist, developed a theory called polyvagal theory. And polyvagal theory takes a deep dive in looking at the autonomic system and looks at kind of 3 different categories of nervous system state that we might be in, that we tend to occupy at any given point in time. We can be in this green ventral vagal space where nervous system feels safe, and it's primarily mediated by the parasympathetic branch. We're at peace, we're at rest, our relational circuits are online, we're able to connect and interact with folks.
Green means grow.
Green means go and grow and, you know, all real good.
All the good things.
All the good things. But then our nervous system, you know, through what he calls neuroception, which he differentiates from perception. So perception is, you know, I look and I notice consciously there's a potential threat. I can see it out here. Well, our nervous system is pulling in data all the time from all of our senses, and it's running it through a threat risk assessment part of our brain all the time in that. And it's under the surface. It happens as an unconscious process, not as a conscious processing of information. And so when our nervous system senses a threat, not this front part of our brain, but this deeper part of our brain, way back in here, right? Way back in here. So it's right on top of the brainstem. When our senses that are coming in from our body run through this part of our brain, and there's a perception of threat, neuroception, then it sounds that alarm system, and we experience that as anxiety. So anxiety, fear, worry, they're all sympathetic activation within the nervous system. They are the same neurological systems at work. Yep, the same chemicals at work, the cortisol and adrenaline that are released within our body, the same brain regions. They're all just different along a continuum of experience and are different kind of categories of threat assessment, threat alarm, preparation and activation of the body to be able to address or navigate threat. And so that's physiologically what's happening inside you when you are experiencing anxiety. And it's very interesting, our body, our brain, doesn't differentiate between a physical threat out there somewhere in the world and an emotional threat. Like an emotional threat lights up our brain, we can see it on brain scans, and activates the same threat spheres of our brain as does physical danger threats out here in the world. And so the activation of this alarm system inside of us could be in regards to something out there that's a physical threat, but it could also be a activation in our nervous system of an emotional threat
Right.
that we're experiencing, or some sort of a relational threat that's taking place. So all of that's happening underneath the scene. The alarm is sound, the brain shuts down, and we're in this yellow, sympathetic, activated state. Fight or flight.
Yeah. It's
Ready
like
to go to battle.
warning.
Yeah. So this is what's happening, and the symptoms of anxiety are the body's fight or flight response, right? And so that's what we're experiencing, what we notice, and that doesn't feel good. Our body doesn't like to be in that fight or flight kind of state. It consumes an enormous amount of glucose and creatine and other emotional resources within the body, and it just like drains our body battery down very rapidly. It's exhausting, very exhausting.
Whenever I think about it, like sometimes when I'm stressed out, I'm experiencing these things in my body, I'm like, why am I starving? I just ate. But the body is just burning these chemicals so fast that my resources are being used up. And so it's just
totally
I
part
just
of the
notice
stress
it.
eating. One aspect of, there's multiple layers to stress eating, but one aspect of stress eating is that rapid consumption of glucose and other resources that our body is burning through under conditions of stress when we're in the sympathetically activated place. So, pretty nerdy, right?
This is very nerdy.
I hope you're enjoying kind of nerding out. Like, I get a little...
Not
giddy.
every episode will be this nerdy.
I get really excited about diving in and understanding just the remarkable way that God wired our body. Like the intricacies of it, the intentionality behind it, how all the different pieces work together. It's really amazing.
Yeah, it leaves you in awe.
Yeah. So we've talked about what's happening. Let's shift gears a little bit, because there's good news. We don't have to stay trapped in the sympathetic state.
Yeah, that's really good news.
Yeah,
it feels bad.
Really
Nobody
good.
likes it.
It's really good news.
Nobody likes it, but it can also be scary to navigate out of.
Yeah, because we can get trapped in it sometimes, and sometimes the solutions themselves are triggering and scary. It's difficult. A lot of severe anxiety disorders, people get stuck in this cycle of anxiety because the things that we need in order to address the dysregulation in our nervous system are in and of themselves the threat triggers.
Yes. Yeah.
So, we're going to unpack what that means.
Yeah. You're about to get ahead of yourself here.
Right now, let's shift gears just a little bit and talk some nerdy theology, right? Because
your favorite thing.
Oh, I know, right? The neuroscience, the theology, it's all so cool. So we have an understanding now of like what's happening in the body, in the nervous system, as we're sympathetically activated. We're experiencing that as anxiety. But how are we supposed to understand this as Christians? There's this conception, I think, within the church, in the Christian community, that Christians aren't supposed to experience anxiety.
Right. Because if you had the joy of the Lord, you wouldn't experience anxiety.
Right.
You would cease to be human if you had the joy of the Lord. You would ignore the wiring system that the Lord gave you. You wouldn't get to experience his goodness through that wiring system if you were a good Christian.
There's some misperceptions that are here, that Christians aren't supposed to experience anxiety. And I just want to clear that up. Anxiety is a system that Jesus wired into the nervous system. That our ability, our capacity for sympathetic activation is something that comes from the Lord. And so if we didn't have this system, we wouldn't survive. We would die. It is necessary. It is not a defect. It is not a sign of the curse. It's not a sign of the fall. It is a normal, healthy, good, valuable, important, necessary part of what it is to be human. And, we need to appreciate that and be worshipful around that and have gratitude for Jesus's design thereof. And the scripture talks about things like be not afraid.
Yeah.
Cast your anxieties on the Lord. How do we reconcile these things?
Yeah.
If Jesus is okay with us having anxiety because he wired it into our nervous system.
Why did he say not to? Why did he say not to be afraid?
Right. Well, that's kind of the question.
Yeah, and we care.
Yeah, it's the apparent contradiction that's in there. But if we really understand what the scriptures are saying, we can understand that they're not in contradiction, right? Let's just dive in.
Yeah.
Let's kind of have some
jump right in.
All right, so I want to, start in Colossians because I think it really helps us lay a foundation for building the rest of our understanding of what's going on here. And in Colossians chapter 1, verses 15 through 17, we gain the foundation for what I keep saying about Jesus' design in the nervous system. So let's read it. It says, Christ is the visible image of the invisible God. He existed before God made anything at all and is supreme over all creation. Christ is the one through whom God created everything in heaven and earth. He made the things we can see and the things we can't see, kings, kingdoms, rulers, and authorities. Everything has been created through him and for him. He existed before everything else began, and he holds all creation together. And so it is through Christ that the human nervous system was created. So when we say Jesus is the designer of the nervous system, we're coming back to Colossians here as our basis for that it is through Christ that God created the human nervous system, and it's through Christ that the nervous system continues to be animated through what we call the thrive drive as a function of Christ's animating force in creation that makes alive things alive and kind of moves us towards health and wellness and fully maturing into fully mature physical adults as well as spiritually who God created us to be. But it's Christ who designed this brain, including the sympathetic nervous system and how it functions to protect us and help us navigate life and all of its threats and challenges and difficulties that come with it. And, Psalms 139 says rightfully that we are fearfully and wonderfully made, right? And Genesis, after Christ brought into existence the human nervous system and breathed life into us, said, it is good. So there's not anything wrong with this design, even if it does get hijacked. So what is it about this fear thing that the scriptures are tapping into? I think to really understand the scriptures teaching around fear, a really good place to start is in Isaiah. Isaiah is a prophet in the Old Testament. It's one of the older books of the Bible. It is the proto-evangelium, the beginnings of the gospel, and painting the future of Christ coming and all the prophecies about the Messiah to come. Many of them are found in Isaiah. So it's a super cool book, and it holds kind of the secret.
The secret.
The secret.
I'm just watching you, and I'm just wondering if we can time you. Like, how were you at Bible drills?
Sword drill. Slow. I'm a slow reader. It's hard for me to read. Slow at sword drills. Never was like a champion sword drill person.
Nobody younger than us knows what that is.
I know. Ask someone old what a sword drill is, and they'll be able to tell you. Okay, so Isaiah 41:10. We hear God speaking to his people, And he says, don't be afraid.
Okay.
Right? This is a thing that we hear often. You're like, okay, be not afraid, don't be afraid. But the next part of this is how we make sense of what it is he's saying. He says, don't be afraid, for I am with you. Don't be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my victorious right hand. This is actually not an accusation or an indictment or anything punitive. It's a promise.
It's like, I know you're going to be afraid.
Right.
And so I want you to remember in those moments that I'm with you and I'm for you and I've got you.
Yes. Fear not is the goal. The mechanism for achieving that is I am with you. And you can't separate fear not from I am with you.
Yeah.
And it's just a theme that's true throughout the whole of the scriptures, right? That the embarrassment and shame that Adam and Eve felt in the garden that created this separation created fear.
Yeah.
Before Adam and Eve walked together with God in the garden and they had communion and closeness and connection of relationship, and there wasn't fear in that space. But it's the relational break and disconnect that they felt with the fall that then led to fear and led to hiding, and is what shame is all about. So unpacking this a little bit more and getting back into some of the nerdy brain science. So the antidote neurologically to fear is a hormone called oxytocin. So oxytocin is a hormone that our body produces, and it produces this hormone in relational context. So when we feel a safe relational connection with God or with others, our body produces oxytocin. And oxytocin actually inhibits the fear circuitry within our brain. Like neurologically, biologically, oxytocin is the antidote to the fear response within the body. So in 1 John 4:18, jump forward to the New Testament a little bit. John 4:18, we read, such love has no fear because perfect love expels all fear. Right? This is neurologically true because it's how God designed the nervous system to work. That when we experience love, when we have that safety and connection, our body produces oxytocin, and oxytocin inhibits the fear circuitry of the brain. And so love is the antidote to fear because of the relational connection. And this is the mechanism, connection with God, connection with one another, through which fear is relieved. So when we bring that understanding of what neuroscientists call co-regulation, right? This is, if you look at two brains through what we call hyperscanning, it's a device that you can put on our heads and watch our brain activation. We can see the right hemispheres, which I lobotomized this guy's right hemisphere, his brain.
No.
Almost. Almost getting closer.
You're upside down.
I'm upside down. My frontal cortex is, there we go. So this is the right hemisphere over here of the brain, right? Sets right over here. That. And this is the part of our brain that is primary in meeting relational connectedness between humans. And when we're hyperscanning two brains of people who feel safe with one another and with whom there is a emotional connection in that safety of relationship, this hemisphere of each brain will light up and it interacts with each other. You can watch the light up on one side and a corresponding light up on the other, light up on the other side and a corresponding light up on the other. There is they call it limbic resonance, or a connection that happens between folks, and it's physiologically, it's neurologically what is happening when we talk about bearing one another's burdens. The scriptures talk about bearing one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. And that physiologically happens in that brain sync and that resonance between right hemispheres of the brain when we feel loved. When we feel loved by another person, we feel safe with them, we feel connected with them, that releases oxytocin in our body. It inhibits the fear circuitry. We have a felt sense of safety and shalom or peace in our body that's happening through that connection. So when Jesus says, in John 14:27, that peace I leave with you, it's my peace that I give you. This is what he's talking about. It's a reflection of like Isaiah, fear not, because I'm with you. This is what Jesus tells his disciples as he's commissioning them out to the Great Commission. It's like, fear not, I'll be with you to the end of the age. And that like, I'm going to be with you. And that relational co-regulation is the mechanism by which we can have peace and we don't have to feel angst and we don't have to be afraid. So, and this is really key because, the enemy likes to weaponize scripture against his people. He's the accuser of the saints, the scriptures say. And so he would love for you to feel guilty about feeling anxious.
Yeah.
He would love for you to feel shame, because shame causes us to hide and disconnect. And when we hide and disconnect, it isolates us from the very co-regulation, both with God and with others, that we need in order to be able to experience peace and to have the fear circuitry in our brain inhibited through oxytocin release within our body. Shame causes isolation and it increases fear and anxiety. That much of the anxiety epidemic that we experience in culture today is highly related to loneliness and isolation. That anxiety is in a lot of ways, it's a loneliness disorder. It's an isolation disorder because the shame causes us to isolate and disconnect, and we need the relational connectedness to produce oxytocin and to inhibit the fear circuitry, which is what produces anxiety symptoms. So this all makes sense. It's a lot of nerdy science.
It's a lot of nerdy science.
And it's a lot of theology, looking at the scriptures. But I hope what we're getting is the picture that the science and the scriptures are not at odds with each other.
Yeah. And that the scriptures aren't at odds with themselves.
The scriptures aren't at odds with themselves. That Jesus' design of the nervous system to have anxiety and experience anxiety is an alarm system. An alarm system that when we respond to it through relational connection, regulates the nervous system, silences that alarm, and gives us the capacity to actually address what the alarm system is raising the alarm about.
That's good news.
Yeah. When God says, I am with you, he's offering us that co-regulation. When the scriptures talk about casting our fears upon him, or casting it, 1 Peter 5:7 invites us to turn to Jesus with our anxieties. It's not turn to him because he's wagging his finger at us and saying,
right?
Stop feeling that.
Yeah.
Over 100 times, the promise of I'll be with you is in the scriptures. In fact, in Matthew, the angel declares that Jesus will be called Emmanuel.
God with us.
God with us. Like the incarnation is the story of God doing what he said in Isaiah and being with us in the midst of the things that we experience. Right? Oh man, I think this is so big and I get so excited about it because there's so many folks experiencing anxiety, and so many folks that the enemy is using the scriptures to create shame
Yeah.
and embarrassment.
Yeah. People
around
are
that.
like, I'm so messed up. I can't reveal the truth of who I am to somebody else. They would scorn me. And that just is exactly the plot of the enemy. The enemy's like, gotcha.
Keeps us isolated.
Yeah.
So, I think about the scriptures and how it tells us to bear one another's burdens. And we talked about this limbic resonance that happens when we do that, when we experience safety and connection with other humans, and we allow ourselves to be known, right? We allow our burdens to be borne by others, which means we have to share our experience.
Yeah.
Right? We have to language. We talked about in the previous episode just the importance of kind of connecting the dots between the nonverbal emotional experience of angst and the symptoms of that in the body and putting language to that, and how it runs that through this frontal, left hemisphere of our brain in order to put language to it. And then if we write it down, how it moves it through this part of our brain in order to move the language through the hands and put it onto paper, right? And it processes it in a way that calms our nervous system down, but also gives us the capacity to then share our experience with others. If we don't language it, we can't share it with others. But in Galatians 6:2, we're given the instruction to love one another or to bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. And I think if it begs the question, right? What is the law of Christ?
I know. I'm like, such an interesting verbiage. The
Right?
law. Like,
The law of
lock
Christ.
it down.
Yeah. What are we talking about
What is
here?
so important that God named it the law of Christ?
Right. So we're going to bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. So I think to answer that question, we can jump to John chapter 13, verses 34 and 35, where scriptures tell us, so now this is Jesus speaking. So now I'm giving you a new commandment.
Yeah.
Right? So Jesus is giving a new law. Right? You got the 10 commandments?
Yep.
Did you know there was a 13th commandment? And that Jesus says, I give you a new commandment.
Did you just go from 10 to 13?
I did. Yeah. Math is hard. Okay.
I'm really good at brain science. The math parts.
Where did I get 13? 11th commandment, right? You're from 10th to 11th commandment. I'm giving you a new commandment. Love one another. Just as I have loved you, you should love each other. Your love for one another will prove to the world that you are my disciples. Right? So the 11th commandment, right,
if you will,
is that you would love one another, right? And how do we go about doing that? Well, Galatians tells us that when we bear one another's burdens, we fulfill the law of Christ. And so this is the nuts and bolts, as you were, of what it means to love one another and to love. The rubber meets the road in this bearing one another's burdens with each other.
Yeah, I just want to put in this little reminder, because sometimes as Christians, we are oh so happy to bear somebody else's burdens. But we find it really difficult to let other people bear our burdens with us. And so we have to do both in order to obey God, in order to fulfill the law of Christ. And if by doing both, by being willing to let others see our struggles, meet us in our struggles, be with us in our struggles, we allow ourselves to, it facilitates the life God wants for us, the freedom, the peace, the joy. If we are only willing to do that for others, we are missing half of the equation, which is really important. We're missing a lot.
I think a lot of times we don't really know what bearing one another's burdens means,
Yeah.
or even what it means to love one another, right? Like at times we get in the place like, okay, we understand this is what the scriptures teach. The problem isn't with biblical literacy, not knowing what the Bible says. The problem is in knowing, how do I do that?
Yeah.
What does that look like to actually live that out and engage? And very practically, from a neurophysiological standpoint, from what the sciences have shown and help illuminate what the scriptures are teaching, because it's consistent with how Jesus, what he spoke in his word and what he designed in the nervous system, both his revelation in that place, it's in this bearing one another's burdens activity. And it's really the secret sauce of good therapy. Like people are like, what is therapy? What makes good therapy good therapy? What's the active ingredient that brings about healing in good therapy? And the foundational skill in good therapy is bearing one another's burdens well. Like it's the skills we use to actively create safety and invite folks to be able to share their experience and to hold that experience with them in a way that helps to regulate their nervous system and helps to organize their experience and make sense of their experience in a way that helps to identify and address the things that are creating alarm in the nervous system. So practically kind of speaking and addressing those things. But the foundational skill in that, there's things that we build on top of that, but it's the technique of bearing one another's burdens.
Which makes a lot of sense. It's like we get to be the tangible representation of fear not, I am with you.
Yeah. I think it's so exciting because you don't have to be a therapist to learn how to bear one another's burdens well.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a therapist to be therapeutic. That these skills are not something only for, highly trained folks out of graduate school or postgraduate degrees, but they're things that each of us can learn and practice with one another. And we actually have the responsibility to. Like this is what Christ is asking us to do. And he's not just asking, he's commanding
this is the
us
law
to do. It's the 11th commandment. It's the new commandment that he offers us, right? And it's not really new. Christ is piggybacking. He says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and your neighbor as yourself. The new commandment, the 11th commandment, is really this place of loving your neighbor in the same way that you love yourself. The skills of that and the practical doing of that is what brings healing. It's the life-giving experiences that transform things for us. So let's bring it full circle, right? Because we're talking about anxiety, right? Still love to dance. You want to do that again? Yeah, there we go.
Full circle dance.
I'm feeling better already. Feeling better already. Okay, so we're looking at how do we identify and label anxiety and understand that worry and fear and anxiety are all sympathetic activation in the nervous system that happens in response to a threat or perceived threat by your nervous system. And the biblical antidote and the neurobiological antidote, which, surprise, surprise, are completely consistent with each other because Jesus wrote the Bible and Jesus designed the nervous system, so we can expect that would be the case, requires us to engage relationally. That Jesus invites us to engage relationally with him, and he invites us to engage relationally with one another. And then it's in that we find healing and transformation around anxiety. It's there that we create the space for one another to explore what the alarm system is alerting us to, so that we can practically address those needs and those concerns. So let's break that down into some practical things.
Break it down now.
Break it down.
Wiki.
We're cool.
Oh gosh, I need to take a walk.
Right, so we said we were going to look at what is activation of the nervous system, how should we think about it as Christians, and then what do we do about it, right? Like practically, what's the actions? And the first thing that we want to do is we want to get curious. Compassionate curiosity engages this part of our brain in a way that helps us connect the dots between the alarm and the reason the alarm system is going off. Because we don't just want to silence the alarm. We want to understand why the alarm was sounded in the first place and be able to address that. So curiosity is the gateway tool to getting there. It helps to regulate the brain, and it helps us begin to gain some insight. The second thing is we've got to get relational, right? Oxytocin, like this is, go Google it. You take my word for it, go Google it, find the research studies that are out there. Oxytocin is the hormone that inhibits the fear circuitry of the brain. You can't soothe anxiety, you can't soothe fear, you can't address the underlying fear that's triggering anxiety without oxytocin, which comes from safe relational connection. And so you got to get relational to experience co-regulation, and that soothes anxiety, but that's not the ending point. Like our point is not, again, just to soothe the symptom, but we want to actually address what's underneath, which also happens in a relational context. That's where our wounds get healed, where our gaps get filled, is through
those life-giving experiences
the life-giving experiences that we have with other people.
Yeah, as we share, I felt this, and this is what I think it's related to, and it felt this way to me, and we have a person sit across from us and be like, yeah, I would have felt that way too. Or, I have some thoughts for you. I can be with you in that. Like, it updates our nervous system of, I'm not alone with this anymore. I don't have to be afraid the same way. I'm going to be okay no matter what the outcome is.
Yes. The third thing is to get help, right? We get curious, we get relational, we get help. Now, and the help that we need varies depending on our situation. Like sometimes the help that we need is simply to not be alone with the hard thing that we're carrying.
Yep.
And when we get with a iron sharpener, a growth-oriented peer who's kind of in the same maturity level as us, and we're able to hold hard things together and do life together, love one another well in community, sometimes that's all we need. Like that in of itself.
Yeah, a lot of times.
We feel the body go, I needed to say that. I needed to share that with someone.
Remember a few days ago when you were so spun up about that thing that you were spun up about, and then you went and had wings with our friend, and you came home and you were like, and then I said this, and then he said this, and I just felt my nervous system.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. That sometimes that's all that we need.
Yeah.
And then sometimes we need some other help. We talk about iron sharpeners. We also talk about sages.
Yes.
Sages being relationships with people that are a little bit further down the road or more mature than us in one or more areas of life. Maybe that's in marriage. Maybe that's in understanding emotional intelligence. Maybe that's in trusting people and being able to form secure relationship.
Yeah, and I think it's worth saying, like, they don't have to be ahead of you in every area of life.
Totally.
But in the area that you're looking for, this would be a person that has a bit more maturity.
And that's really where therapy comes into place. Like if you reach out to a counselor, now they're going to bring a set of skill sets and a set, if they're a good therapist, there's good, bad, and ugly out there. But a good therapist is going to bring maturity in these areas of safety and of connection and independence and reality and emotional intelligence and spirituality. And they're going to lend their maturity in those domains to you through life-giving experiences, and that are able to address the specific needs that your nervous system is bringing forward when it sounds the alarm with anxiety. And so sometimes getting help is in that professional context where we guide a process of regulating the anxiety, following its signal to the source of what it's trying to tell us, figuring out what kind of experience is needed to address that, whether it's a wound or a gap that is signaling or triggering the anxiety, so that we can find healing.
Something else that I love about therapy that I think is worth naming is like, it's not only that specific experience that you have with the therapist, but it's learning the strategy with somebody who knows the strategy, so that when you are finished with therapy, or when you feel like you're at a place, okay, I'm going to tackle this, you can do it for yourself with others. You're like, hey, I know what I need to do. All you have to do is be willing to do this with me.
That's right. It's different than like surgery.
Yes, you cannot facilitate surgery for yourself. Do not recommend.
You can't facilitate surgery for yourself. That's true. In that, but sometimes folks think about therapy like surgery, and in one way, it's there's some parallels, but the word picture really falls short, because what therapy actually does is develop your capacities. And you take those capacities with you outside that. And like you were saying, that gives you the capacity to connect and engage in new ways with people in your life.
Yeah.
You don't have to keep coming back to the therapist in order to have those experiences. You are able to embody and increase your capacity in those domains that then enables you to have those kinds of life-giving experiences in the relationships in your life.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Yeah. So, recap, right? We took a look at the physiology of what happens in our body and what creates the symptoms that we then put the label of anxiety on, which is the same physiology that's behind worry, behind stress, behind fear. It's all sympathetic activation. The nuances of worry and stress and fear are really constructs of meaning that we create and apply to it through this frontal cortex part of our brain. Bodily, it's the same nervous system activation that's taking place. Take a look at the reality that when Scripture says fear not, that it's a promise, not an indictment. It's not a you're doing something wrong because you're afraid. You're doing something wrong because you're experiencing angst. Instead, it's an invitation. It's a, hey, you don't have to be afraid because I'm going to be with you. And you can connect with the body, Christ, and people can be with you in this. We can undo your aloneness, and we can learn what this alarm system is telling us, and we can address what's underneath it. And so it's going to be okay. And it's a promise of God from his own heart to you, and the kind of relationship that he wants to have with you, where he wants to be Emmanuel, God with you in the midst of the hard things that you navigate in life. And it's a promise that is fulfilled through his people, that Jesus leaves the command with his people for us to love one another as he has loved us and loved them. And so it is not only a thing that is to happen between you and God directly, but it's something that is lived out in community with other believers in the body of Christ. And we need one another to do that. And so we've got to get curious and have that compassionate curiosity as we approach the angst that we feel. We've got to get relational, and then we've got to get help around whatever thing it is that the anxiety is alerting us to. Hey friend, thanks for hanging out with us. If you've learned something, please subscribe and share it with somebody you love. You'll probably also like some of the other videos that we have, and so we'll link to those around here. Check them out, and we'll keep learning together. And remember, Jesus wants you to live an abundant life, to mature into your true self, like the version of you that he created you to be and that he wants you to mature into, so that you can experience true happiness in him, a life characterized by peace, joy, and hope. And we're here cheering you on as you mature into your true self and experience true happiness. We love you, and we'll see you down the road.